Hello, welcome back to our podcast, Grave Chatter. I am Saloni,
And I'm Maggie.
and today we'll be telling stories about spooky camping stories.
Yes.
Ooh.
Which I think camping without any sort of scary things happening is scary enough.
That is so true.
Have you
Oh.
ever gone camping?
I have gone, I think I've gone or twice. Once probably when I was like young, but another time where
With your
I will
family?
tell my family friends.
Okay.
But like friends, I guess, yeah. And I will tell that story because I have a story that connects to my story, so kind of fun, kind of spooky, kind of fresh.
Okay. Excited to hear it. Here we go. I'm excited because this time I have my spooky mug.
I am very bland and I have my grandma mug.
Yeah, we need to fix that. We need to get you something a little bit more festive.
I'm
Because I
gonna
also
make
have
my
my Halloween spooky ghost t-shirt going on here too.
I'm wearing my Wednesday merch.
Is it really?
No, it looks like because
Oh.
I went to a Wednesday theater and I wore this to the Wednesday theater. Now I just say I'm Wednesday, but
What
yeah.
do you mean the Wednesday theater? Like to go
No,
see...
I meant like, what's it called? A play, not a theater.
Okay, you went to see it
A
Wednesday,
play
the
at a
play
theater.
at the theater?
Yes.
Okay. I think they're doing Beetlejuice soon here, which I might go see,
Beetlejuice?
but like
Yes. Beetlejuice.
don't say it 3 times. Um,
Beetlejuice.
have you seen
Yeah.
the
I've
clip
only
from the
saw the
play where
clip.
she it's so good. But the thing is, like, the theaters out here are not nearly as good as the one in St. Louis. So it's kind
You're
of...
in North Cal Dorn not you're
I'm
not in Dakota, you're the Carolines, got it. Just
Carolinas,
why I
yes.
keep on thinking you're in the Dakotas.
I too cold. Okay, here we go with my first story. So, starting off with the camping theme, which I've been camping, but it's definitely not something I'm volunteering for, to be honest. 2 friends and myself were on a cross-country trip, and Roswell, New Mexico was one of our stops. We were there for the kitsch, but we were also camping for most of the trip, so we got a site at the Bottomless Lake State Park, about 20 minutes outside of the city. We did our thing in town for the day and headed back to our site around sundown. Everything seemed pretty standard at first. There were some neighbors camping down the road, and we could hear their music, the Moldy Peaches, a pretty lighthearted soundtrack which didn't set the creepiest of tones. My 2 friends, who were a couple, read and wrote in their journals by lantern light, and I drank a couple of beers while taking long exposure photographs of our campsite. The music died down, my friends got tired and went to sleep, and after I got the shot I wanted, I did too. I awoke fairly disoriented, somewhere between that state of transition from light to deep sleep. I heard crunching around the tent. Not knowing if I was dreaming or not, I just kind of sat up in my tent to figure out what I was hearing. Was it real or just the remnants of sleep? I started to hear it again, and this time it was closer. The sound wasn't just closer, it was directly outside my tent. Understandably, the hair on the back of my neck was poker straight, and I knew something was up. There was a moment that I thought that it could have been a ranger. Who knows? Maybe our registration was messed up, or maybe we left the headlights on for the car. I asked out, "If anyone is out here, can you please make yourself known?" Nothing. "Hello? Please identify yourself." Still nothing. I sat there, frozen with the most intense sense of fright that I've ever felt, and it was dead silent. I calmed myself to lay back down, hoping I'd been imagining it, and I closed my eyes. From what I could tell, within the next 5 minutes, the footsteps started moving around my tent again. I shot back up and fucking knew someone was out there. At this point, something so surreal happened that I can't adequately express my sense of fright. As I sat there, open-mouthed and silent, the end of my tent started to be lifted up by the person on the outside. I screamed for my friends in their tent, screamed for them to wake up, and that someone was outside. It felt really hectic, My friends were disoriented, I was disoriented, and from then on, I didn't hear or see anything else. My friend was basically yelling at me to stick my head out of the tent and check it out, but I was absolutely terrified that if I did, I'd get my head lopped off or I'd have a gun stuck in my face. I finally worked up the balls and saw nothing. No one. We got out of the tents and into the car, and I told them everything. They seemed concerned yet skeptical. I was adamant that something had happened. We decided to shine our headlamps from the car in the direction of our tents, which was kind of surrounded by these rocky hills and a dried up riverbed. As we scanned the rocks with our lights, another light hits the rocks right behind our tents. We decided that it would probably be a good idea to leave our shit and get a motel room, so we headed to Roswell at about midnight. The whole night felt kind of stupid. I was also really scared. I kept trying to tell myself that I was just dreaming, or that it was a raccoon, or maybe that I'd just seen too many horror movies. We kind of joked about it, watched cops on the shitty motel TV, and fell asleep. When we went back in the morning, my fears were unfortunately confirmed. We rolled up and nothing seemed to be out of place. Nothing stolen or moved, or so we thought. We start picking up our things and I begin to take my tarp off. My friend says out loud, "Well, that's really fucking weird," and signals me over. The elastic bungee cords that hold the rainfly on his tent were cut clean through, like with scissors or a knife. The tent was brand new. I went back over to my tent to see if I had the same, and I was immediately drawn to the fresh boot prints that circled my tent, footprints that were on top of mine. That said, we packed up and we did it fast. We almost didn't even really talk about it. I actually even think that my friend who got his tent cut opened is still a bit skeptical. I can't say for certain who this person was or what they were trying to do, but they certainly achieved scaring the living shit out of me. Tent stalker, whoever you are, let's not meet. Okay. Any thoughts?
One, spooky, because
Creepy.
easily could be creepy, easily could be a person,
Mhm.
easily.
Well, and they
Um,
said boot mark, so I assume it is a person.
yeah, but also who's, like, stalking? I'm assuming they're children?
Maybe. I kind of assume they're in their 20s if they're like camping by themselves and the other couple
Right.
was dating. Not that you don't date in high school and stuff, but I just assume that they're adults. What I'm more interested
I
in is that you always seem to think that it's a she. Like the main character in your mind always seems to be a she, and the main character in my mind always seems to be a he. But also, he mentioned like working up the balls, but girls kind of make that saying as well, so it still could be a she. But like in my mind, I'm like, no female is gonna go camp and stay in her own tent. So
that
I'm like,
is
anyone
that is very
doing,
true. I
and in
think
the last,
subconsciously, I just say she, but I know it's a
yeah,
he because respectfully, no girl is going to be going out and camping alone. I mean, they
you
can,
could have
but I
just stopped
guess
at camping.
camping
um,
alone in the middle of the woods. I'm sorry, what? It's just not something I would go
I
alone.
mean, it wasn't alone, but like you should have
No,
been
but
using the buddy system, and the other two
yeah.
had their buddies, and this person did not have their buddy.
Yeah, I was
So
like,
obviously, you're going to
either
be the target.
why are also, did it only happen around his?
So it's both of the tents were messed with. One of them, they cut the little bungees that like hold the
Ah,
rain
okay, okay, okay,
cover.
okay.
And then on his, there were boot marks around. And then he was obviously the one that whoever it was messing with the tent. And like,
Right.
yeah.
Also,
So,
what I wanna know,
mhm.
why is the friend still a skeptic? I'm sorry, what?
Because I probably in denial. I feel like most
I
people,
mean,
if
I
something weird
guess.
like that happens, they're like, I'm just going to come up with some reason why it was completely normal. And,
Mhm.
maybe it was a raccoon that can use its opposable thumbs very well and it can lift the tent very well. And
Right, the boot marks are made from a raccoon.
he's a very sophisticated raccoon. And he likes cleanliness. And so he wears shoes.
Right. A size 13. When I think of this person, I think of this giant looking man, a size like
Yeah,
4, I don't know how big feet are, 14, 13. I don't know,
probably. Mhm.
13, um, just, like, stomping around, and I cannot imagine a raccoon doing that.
Maybe
I don't
not.
know. Maybe
Maybe it was a
maybe not.
vampire. Maybe not. Um, okay,
Crazy.
moving on to the next story.
I used to work as a camp counselor at an overnight camp in the mountains of Canada. I loved it more than any other job I've ever had, despite the awful food, long days, short days, and endless streams of loud, needy campers. The best part, I got to tell as many scary stories as my voice can handle. There's nothing better than sitting around a dying fire with a bunch of junior high kids, leaning in, waiting for me to whisper the scary stories I knew. And I told them all: the babysitter, the clown statue, the driver, and the gas station attendant, and the woman with the licking dog. But the best stories, I saved those for the overnight canoe trips in the park. Days were for paddling and laughing and s'mores. Nights were for singing around the fires. And when the kids finally quiet down, that's when I tell them about the faceless stalker in the woods or the campers who dared to stay across the lake from an abandoned insane asylum. One day, after wrapping up my stories, I sent the kids off to their tent. My co counselor went too, leaving me alone by the dying fire. The air smelled of pine. The moonlight shimmered off the glassy lake. Across the water, cliffs rose hundreds of feet in the sky. That's when I saw it. Movement at the very top, a light. Small, golden, bobbing. At first I thought it was a star, but then another appeared. And another. Until there was 8 of them, swaying back and forth. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my camera, zoomed in, counted. Counted again. Oh shit. I ran up to the tents. Up. Wake up now. We have to go. Now. 7 confused faces poked out, including Laura, my co counselor. She glared. What are you even talking about? There's a storm, a big one. We need to move. I pulled out the map. There's a ranger station a few kilometers south. We'll make it before it hits. The kids groaned, wanting to wait until the morning. No, I snapped, louder than I meant to, then softer. Come on, I'll tell you my best story along the way. That got them moving. Within 10 minutes, we were on the trail, tiny flashlights cutting through the dark. Once we had a steady pace, I began to speak. A long time ago, before European settlers arrived, First Nation people lived here. One group of 20 men, women, and children were caught in the early blizzards by these very cliffs. They had nothing but lanterns to guide their way. Each traveler carried one, not to light the cliffs, but to follow the person ahead. A chain of flickering lights in the storm. But the leader slipped. A gust of wind took him. His lantern dropped, glowing as it fell into the lake below. Then her child collapsed, too cold to keep going. Another slipped. One by one, they all fell. Legend says on one night like this, their light still appeared, trapped in the cliffs, swaying in the dark. By the time I finished, the kids were silent. Ahead, I saw real lights, the ranger station. Relief flooded me. But when we arrived, chaos broke loose. Rangers shouted, loading trucks, radios crackling. Storm coming fast, one barked. Tornadoes already touched down. Everyone in the trucks. We piled in. As we jolted down the road, Laura leaned in. How did you know that we had to leave? I stared ahead, my voice hollow. I saw the lights. Her breath caught. How many? I hesitated. 8. She looked at the kids, 7 of them, already asleep, head on each other's shoulder, then at me, whispered, That's all of us. And she knew the part of the story I left out. The lights weren't random. They never were. Each one swayed for a reason. One light for every person about to die. Dun dun dun.
Okay, now I get it. Um,
Crazy.
that's sad that
Again,
she told the kids that story. That she's like, "I'll tell you the best story I have," and then she was just like a giant Debbie Downer at on their, like, walk back.
yeah, and also, I mean, if you realize you're about to die, I would be too. But
Yeah.
I just I don't understand how they knew. Like, how did Lauren or Laura or whatever her name is, how did she know that it was one light for each person lost, and they were next. You know?
I kind of feel like that was a coincidence,
Maybe.
but I also feel like nobody if there was a tornado coming, right?
Yeah. It
So
says
I
tornado.
which we grew up with tornadoes like every
In the
year,
Midwest.
and I feel like there's a lot of, like, excited energy whenever there's a tornado coming, but I think the kids would also realize what was happening, and there would've been,
Mhm.
like, tornado sirens going on, maybe, I don't know how remote the area is that they're in, but I feel like there would be, like, this sort of tornado excitement going on, but also kind of like a, "Okay, shoot, this is kinda serious." Like, you don't need to convince me to get out of the tent and hike all the way back. I'm not like, "Huh, silly tornado, I'm just gonna, like, get a move on in the morning, this is fine."
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you especially there since they're junior high, they're not, like, too little, I
mhm,
feel like they would understand.
mhm.
So,
So
I don't yeah. Especially if you told them what actually happened, I feel like they would also understand too.
yeah, but it is kind of a spooky coincidence, like, maybe it was a little bit of a warning that they needed to get
Mhm.
moving, that these spirits were like, "Hey, unless you wanna come hang out with us, like, you better get a move on."
Which is
Which could be
also
the case.
the first story that I've seen that the main characters actually moved, because 'cause they're usually like, "Oh, let me go follow this light,"
Yes, they're like, "This'll be fine, I'm sure it's nothing." I
and
guess
then
my story was
dies.
like that too, where they were like, something's going on, we're out of here." But all
Yeah.
the stories from the first episode were like, "Let's just stick
Check it
around and find
check
out."
yeah. I'm like,
Mhm,
"I'm sorry," and you're shocked that you're dead,
mhm,
like, you're about to
I
die? I
know.
don't
Okay, here we go. My second story, staying on the camping theme. I feel like my first story was very realistic, like, it was likely just kinda creepy, like a
yeah.
stalker or whatever running into that in the woods. This one, I think is more it's most definitely like a paranormal situation, there's no way to explain this one, so here
I
we
feel like
go.
that's the more, like, fun approach. Like,
I
yes,
do
you can
too.
be all, like, realistic about it, but, like, be fun, be unrealistic. Anyways,
Mhm.
continue.
I need to write this down. I need to get it out of my head and into the world because I feel like I'm going crazy and because I need to warn people. I'm an experienced hiker. I'm not one of those weekend warriors who sticks to the paved, well marked trails. I like the deep woods, the places where you can walk for a whole day and not see another soul. I had a long weekend, so I decided to tackle a remote trail in a state forest a few hours away from my home. My plan was simple: hike in about 5 or 6 miles, find a good spot, camp for the night, and hike out the next day. Standard stuff. The hike in was beautiful. The air was crisp, the sky was a brilliant cloudless blue, and the late autumn sun cast long golden shafts of light through the canopy. The only sounds were the crunch of my boots on the fallen leaves, the chatter of a distant sparrow, and the wind whispering through the trees. This is why I do it. This feeling of absolute peace, of being completely disconnected from the noise of the world. After a few hours of steady hiking, I started to look for a place to make camp. I was looking for the usual: a relatively flat spot, not too close to the trail, preferably with access to a water source. And then I found it. It wasn't just a good spot, it was perfect, unnaturally perfect. I stepped off the main trail, pushing through a thicket of ferns, and found myself in a clearing I can only describe as idyllic. It was a perfect circle, maybe 40 feet in diameter. The ground was covered in a carpet of short, soft, vibrant green grass that looked more like a meticulously manicured lawn than a patch of wild forest floor. And the trees formed a perfect unbroken ring around the clearing. Tall, ancient oaks and pines stood shoulder to shoulder, their branches interlocking overhead like some kind of dome, leaving this single, perfect circle of green open to the sky. It was like something out of a fairy tale. A small, rational part of my brain registered just how strange it was. Clearings in dense forests are so rarely so symmetrical. The grass shouldn't be so uniform, so soft. But the overwhelming feeling was one of discovery, of incredible luck. It felt safe, protected. The circle of trees felt like a natural fence, a private room gifted to me by the forest itself. I dismissed my unease as my city dweller cynicism. I had found the jackpot of campsites. I dropped my pack with a contented sigh and set to work. The tent went up easily, the stakes sinking into the soft earth with a satisfying thump. I gathered some fallen branches from just outside the clearing and built a small, neat fire pit in the center. Soon, a cheerful little fire was crackling away, warding off the evening chill. I cooked a simple meal of dehydrated chili and sat on my log, watching the flames dance as the sun set, painting the sky above the circle of trees in hues of orange and purple. This, I thought to myself, is perfect. This is what it's all about. As true darkness fell, the forest changed, as it always does. The familiar woods of the day became a strange place of shadows and unseen movements. But I was snug in my little circle of light and warmth. I felt completely secure. After cleaning up my cook set, I doused the fire thoroughly, making sure every last ember was out, and crawled into my tent. I zipped up the flap, settled into my sleeping bag, and tried to sleep. And that's when the perfection started to unravel. It began with a feeling, a strange sensation from the ground beneath me. It was a faint, almost imperceptible movement directly under my sleeping bag. It felt like insects, a whole lot of them, moving around just under my tent. A low-grade, creepy crawly feeling. I tried to ignore it. I'm in the woods after all. There are bugs. I pulled my sleeping bag tighter around me and closed my eyes, focusing on the gentle sounds of the night. But I couldn't sleep. The feeling persisted, a constant, subtle, wiggling sensation against my back. It wasn't painful, it was just wrong. Then the noises started. They came from outside my tent, from the ring of trees surrounding the clearing. A soft snap of a twig, the dry rustle of leaves. At first, I assumed it was just an animal, a deer, maybe a raccoon. But the sounds were too regular. Snapping, rustling. They seemed to be moving slowly around the perimeter of the clearing, like someone is moving around me in the darkness. My heart started to beat a little faster. I lay there, perfectly still, my ears straining in the darkness. And then I saw shadows. My tent is made of thin, light-colored nylon. The moon was bright. It cast eerie, dancing shadows of the tree branches onto the tent walls. I watched them, trying to calm my racing mind. It's just the wind, I told myself. The wind is making the branches move. There was no wind. The air was dead silent, yet the shadows on my tent walls were moving. Not just swaying, but actively, deliberately shifting. They were long, thin finger-like shadows, and they were stroking the outside of my tent. I could see them sliding up the walls, tracing the seams like curious, probing fingers. I sat bolt upright, my breath caught in my throat. I grabbed my powerful flashlight from the mesh pocket beside me. My hand was shaking. I flicked it on, pointing the bright white beam at the tent wall. The shadow vanished in the glare. I swept the beam across the inside of the tent. Nothing. Just me, my gear, and my hammering heart. I turned the light off. The shadow fingers returned, caressing the thin fabric. I was terrified now. The feeling from the ground had intensified. It wasn't just a vague wriggling anymore. It was faster, more deliberate. It felt like 1,000 tiny needles tapping against the floor of the tent from underneath. My hands, slick with sweat, pointed the beam down at the tent floor beside my sleeping bag. And I saw it. The grass had come through. Dozens of thin, blade-like shoots of the soft green grass had pierced the thick nylon floor of my tent. They were sticking up, maybe half an inch, like a patch of freshly sprouted lawn. But that wasn't the worst part. They were moving. They were swaying back and forth in perfect, horrifying unison. A tiny, hypnotic, rhythmic motion. They weren't just blades of grass. They were something else. Cilia? Teeth? Feelers? They were testing the air inside my tent. They were trying to find me. I screamed, then scrambled for the zipper of the tent door, my fingers feeling like useless, clumsy sausages. The sound of the zipper was obscenely loud in the silence. I burst out of the tent, stumbling to my feet in the center of the clearing, whipping the beam of my flashlight around wildly. The clearing was empty. The circle of trees stood silent and still. For a moment, a sliver of hope, of denial, cut through my panic. Maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe I'd finally lost it. Then I turned the flashlight back on the tent, and the world fell out from under me. The branches weren't coming from the trees, they were coming from the ground. Dozens of thick, dark, root like tendrils, the color of wet earth, had erupted from the soft green grass of the clearing. They were wrapping around the tent, constricting it, squeezing it like a giant boa constrictor. The sleek dome of my tent was misshapen, buckled inwards under the pressure. The roots were fibrous and sinewy, and I swear I saw them pulsing with a slow, rhythmic beat, like a network of dark veins. They were pulling the tent downwards into the soft earth, which seemed to be yielding, sinking. It looked like my tent was being eaten, digested. And in that moment of absolute, soul shattering horror, I understood. I didn't think. I didn't grab my pack. I didn't try to save my expensive gear. My phone, my wallet, they were all in the tent. A tent that was currently being swallowed by the ground. The only thing I had was the flashlight in my hand and the clothes on my back. I ran. I ran for the gap in the trees that led back to the trail, my feet pounding on the soft, living earth. I felt a strange, sucking sensation with every step, as if the ground itself was trying to hold me back. I crashed through the ferns and onto the hard packed dirt of the trail, and I didn't stop. The run through the forest was a blur of pure animalistic panic. The beam of my flashlight bounced and jittered, illuminating a chaotic, terrifying slideshow of dark tree trunks, twisted roots, and gaping black shadows. Every rustle of leaves was the creature, its tendrils slithering after me. Every shadow was its gaping maw. I ran until my lungs felt like they were on fire, until my legs were jelly, until I was sobbing and gasping for air. After what felt like an eternity, I saw it. A glint of reflected light through the trees. My car. The sight of that familiar, man made object was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I burst out of the woods and into the small gravel parking area, fumbling in my pocket for the spare key I always kept there. My hands were shaking so violently that it took me 3 tries to get it in the lock. I threw myself in the driver's seat, slammed the door, and locked it. I sat there for a moment, my chest heaving, listening to the sound of my own ragged breathing. I jammed the key in the ignition, and the engine roared to life. A beautiful, beautiful sound of civilization and escape. I didn't look back. I drove all night, adrenaline coursing through my veins, not stopping until the sun was up and I was hundreds of miles away. I'm safe now, I guess. I'm in a cheap motel room, but I'm not okay. I close my eyes and I see it. The wiggling grass, the pulsing dark roots, the way my tent buckled and sank into the earth. I think the clearing wasn't a clearing. It was a thing, a living thing. The soft grass wasn't grass. It was a lure, a soft lining of a mouth. The perfect circle of trees wasn't a protective fence. It was the rim of the jaw, and I had willingly, happily set up my camp on its tongue.
This is so I like that story. I think it's such a strange concept because most of the stories that we did read today, it's like, oh, I think we kind of said this earlier. It's more like realistic,
hmm
but now it's like, oh, the
I mean,
grass that
the ghostly lights on the mountain, I don't know that I'd call that realistic, but
I mean, it's not realistic, but it's more realistic than the
a
grass
monster.
becoming a teeth,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it swallowing the tent or
Yes.
trying to eat it, I guess, which is kind of crazy because I'm like, it's such a weird concept, and I'm
Yeah.
like, obviously it's fake.
Okay. Okay. Have you are you familiar with um I guess they're fairy rings? This is what it made me think of. So like if you look, there's tons of I mean, there's a lot of lore that kind of transcends multiple cultures and civilizations, but really prominent in Irish folklore, there is fairy rings. And it's just like these really weird things that like happen in nature where you might come across either a clearing that's unnaturally circular, but like perfectly circular, or maybe you come across a ring of stones and it's like, did somebody place them like that or were they naturally created like that? But this is kind of what it made me think of because depending on the culture, will depend on whether fairy rings are a bad sign and something to stay away from, or are they a good sign and something like good luck or something like that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what this made me think of because then you can like get into lore as far as fairies go, and I think
Mhm.
most people think of, like, Tinkerbell as your quintessential fairy, but then
Mhm.
if you look at the folklore, fairies are actually usually depicted a lot more, vicious and evil, and so
Right.
this being some sort of monster kind of fits in at least to me, it kind of fits into the
Yeah.
narrative of it being, like, a fairy circle that he happened across, and then the fairy came to eat him.
Yeah, then the fairy became, malicious and tried to eat him whole.
Yeah, and again, we're assuming this is a him because I don't think many women are camping in the middle of nowhere off the beaten path by themselves.
Very
They
true.
will. They
Which
will. There are some.
if you are,
More power
hats
to
off
you.
to you because I can do that shit,
I hope you have a
and I will
taser.
not do that. Yeah, yeah, carry that shit around like it's your last thing.
I know. But yeah, that's what this made me think of was, like, the fairy circles because of it being, like, so unnaturally perfect.
No, I do see the similarity, and I find it interesting that you kinda, like, connected the 2, which
Mhm.
if I have known that story, I would never have thought to, like, connect the 2, but I
Mhm.
find it interesting that you did.
Yeah.
And I see the similarity of, like, him, like, walking into the fairy lights or whatever,
Yeah.
which I
Well,
think is
and
funny.
according to some of the lore, fairies have a preference towards females, so it probably also got a taste of
Valid.
him and was like, "Ugh, another man?"
"No, I don't want you. Another
Mhm.
man."
Just
Which
chased him
I'm like,
away.
in this part, maybe I do want the man eaten. I want anyone eaten but me.
Sacrifice, sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Um,
But,
but it also
yeah, I
did
don't
crack me up because I was like, "Wait, how did he get the motel room if he left his wallet in the tent that just got eaten by the, monster?"
yeah, like, huh? I
Maybe he
also
was
find
like, "I'll
it
pay you
very
back
funny.
later, I owe you one."
You I owe you one. I also find it funny that the way that he described the car, which, I mean, I'm sure if you're in that moment, like, you're happy to see the car because you know you
Mhm.
almost got eaten alive, but I just find it funny how, like, when you're in that situation, all the, like, natural things that you do, like turn on your car, is so, like
And also, just like his description, he was like, "This is nature, this is amazing, this is what it's all
mhm,
about." But then when he's running for his life and
fast
he sees
forward.
that man-made, like, you know,
Yeah,
icon
I
of
find it funny.
civilization, he was like, "Oh my god." Yeah.
I
How the
find that funny.
tables turned.
How have the tables have turned? No, I think
Yeah.
that's funny. I do like that
Okay.
story, though. It's very interesting.
Yeah. That one, it was decent. I still my favorite is still my second story from the first episode with the, guy
Really?
with the weird job and the black
Oh, I
book.
do like
That one was written so well, but some of these are, like some of these writers are really, really good, and the way that they write is just like, the imagery and yeah. But I feel like the my second one from the last episode, just, like, the way that he wrote it so that it was, like, really perfect pauses that kept the,
the story going.
the drama and the what am I trying to say? The suspense. There we go.
The
Trying to get the
suspense
suspense.
going. So I go camping around 6 to 8 times a year with my family. Typically, these trips are uneventful. We go up, fuck around on ATVs, set out a campfire, and then go home. These trips usually last between 3 to 10 days. Well, I remember this one trip vividly. I was about 14 at the time. I'm 17 now, so it's a pretty recent story. We brought our camping gear to a place I haven't been to since I was a kid. So I was genuinely excited to see if things have changed or not. Keep in mind that we usually camp with 2 other families. Well, me and my friend Jenna were the first ones to get to the campsite. The campsite is genuinely small and surrounded by really deep, dense forest. Our parents, who didn't want to deal with us at that time, sent us off to explore the woods. So we did that. We went a good solid quarter mile in the woods looking for a creek we used to swim at. but we must have gotten turned somewhere. Instead of finding a creek, we found an open field, which was never there before, with around 6 stumps that made a complete even circle. Inside the circle was some brown crusted leaves. Thinking back on it, it was probably dried blood. A knife, and some sort of animal with yellow twine wrapped around its neck, and what it looked to be like salt. We booked it out of there as quickly as we could back to the campsite. However, we made one fatal mistake. We didn't check to see if something was watching us. Later that night, me and Jenna were the last ones up at the campsite. I remember feeling as if someone was watching us. It got so bad to the point that instead of sleeping in the tent our parents provided us, we were to sleep in different campers. When we woke up the next morning, we came to the horrifying sight of our tent being slashed. Safe to say, we never been back to the campsite since. And yes, we told our parents what happened during that day, and we tried to show them where it was, but we couldn't find the site. I really wonder if what was watching us was even human. It moved too quietly and quickly. From the research found, it looks to me that me and my friend stumbled upon a satanic ritual site. I just hope nothing has followed us home. Dun dun dun.
Spooky.
Spooky, spooky.
I have thoughts. Okay.
What are your thoughts?
First thought, circle of the tree stumps, another fairy circle. Or they could have been there like on purpose. They might have chopped them down and like placed them all there. But if not, they found a fairy circle too.
Again, someone else.
Yeah. So was thinking about that. Was also thinking that the salt thing is kind of weird because usually salt is like a protective thing. Like if
Mhm.
you're feeling spooky things happening, then you use salt to protect you, as we have seen in Hocus Pocus. The original source content, not
Right,
true.
of course.
But
No, it definitely is,
yeah.
for sure.
So that was kind of weird that there was salt included in it because they said that we're worried that they stumbled on a satanic ritual, but it might have been fine because it might have been closed out properly. But yeah, maybe it still summoned something that's now lingering in the woods and,
Right,
followed them and slashed their tent. Or maybe it was just like some teenagers that slashed the tent while they were all sleeping or something like that. Either way, if there's a camper, I'd rather stay in the camper than stay in the tent.
right. Why? I mean,
So,
I guess people love being like, "Oh, like, natural," and wanna go sleep on the tent, so I understand. But then again, glad they went to the camper because of this
mhm,
whole situation. Also, I heard, well, I haven't really heard, but it's what I think. If you maybe, you know how, like, it's a protective circle? So maybe
yeah,
whoever was doing the satanic rituals, they wanted to be protected by, but then it also doesn't make sense because if they are doing the ritual, they wanna summon something.
yeah.
So I'm
Summon
like,
it
why
and
do they?
probably summon it and talk to it, but not
Mhm.
be stuck with it for the rest of their life.
Maybe.
So, they're trying to, like, safely summon it,
Right.
probably. Or they're
That,
trying to, like, terrorize people in the forest who are trying to camp, and they're like, "I'm gonna summon this, and I'm gonna peace out and go home."
you know what this reminds me of? I mean, it's obviously not a direct story, but I went camping once, and I was young, so I don't really remember, like, all of the tiny details.
Mhm,
So, it was my friend and I, or, like, my friends, I guess, and we were stupid. We went to, like, I guess the back part, cause this was, like, the campsite and, like, the tents and everything, and then this was, like, the
mhm.
fire, and then, like, the picnic tables or whatever, and then we kind of went behind it so, like, no one would see us, but we were still close enough where it's, like, if we screamed, they could hear us. So, we were there, we had, like, sticks, and like, the Charlie shit?
No.
So, basically, when I was younger, like, that was a whole big thing. I remember being, like, in school, like, when I was, like, very young, and
Mhm.
during the during lunch in the cafeterias, they would have, like, pencils stacked up upon like, on themselves, and they would, like, ask the so and so spirits a question, and then it would, like, move according to so, like, on okay, I'm not explaining this correctly,
I
but on
kind of get it.
like, on the below, there's, like, yes, and then there was no's. So you
Yeah.
ask them yes or no questions, and then based on, like, whatever the spirits,
Yeah.
it, like, moves. So our dumbass, we did that on the campsite, and, it kept turning, but also we were outside. So
Mhm.
it just that just reminded me of, like, the whole situation, and then we were, like, scared shitless after that.
Yeah, I feel like that might be easily debunked by the fact that these
Yeah.
sticks are probably not, like, perfectly
Right.
balanced,
Yeah.
and so gravity is gonna, like, pull them.
And
Maybe.
the fact that there was wind, well, I'm assuming there
Mm.
was wind because we were outside.
But that could have been the
So
spirits,
right. It could have
which
been.
makes me makes me think of Pocahontas and, like, Mother Willow's spirits, like, whipping through the wind, and
It's
it
actually
could have been the
funny.
spirits.
Could have been the spirits, but probably not. Let's be honest. Keep it
I don't
100
know.
keep it 100 with you. But yeah,
I don't know. But I think that was a good one to end on.
it was. It's a little
Yeah.
spooky, but, like
Short and sweet and spooky.
mhm,
All right.
but yeah.
Okay. And that wraps up our second episode of Grave Chatter. So hopefully everyone enjoyed it and comes back for a third. I was thinking in the third episode, if we want to set another theme, maybe we could do scary doll stories because I have some good ones to talk about already.
I would be very down with that.
Awesome. Then I think that'll be the theme for the next episode, and we can't wait to see everyone there in the comments. So, also, we haven't mentioned before, but if you're interested, we do have our Instagram account, and I guess this is the part where you're also supposed to say to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you so
Yes.
feel. All right.
And we also have a TikTok account, so go follow our TikTok account
And the TikTok.
in the TikTok. But yeah, like
Bye.
and subscribe and bye.